Given that Margaret Atwood, who wrote Handmaid's Tale, is a Canadian, and given that the television show is really popular, I just had to make this. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs and the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, June the 28th, 2021, vlog number 222, or the 474th day of COVID, or 89 days since my hair was last cut. And you can tell that. Yeah, feeling like a hippie. Okay, let's move right into what's behind me. This is the mystery quilt. It is all done now, and yeah, am I in love with it? To be honest, I am not. Don't hate it, don't love it. I don't like my combination of colors, really. I did have some trouble with this quilt. I wish I was able to see the final product before I picked my fabrics, because you were given only very brief outline of what colors you should pick. Mostly, you know, pick some lights, pick some mediums, pick some darks. And yeah, I would have done a better job of picking the colors, because these colors, although they're interesting, I don't think they show off the blocks as well as they could. But it is done, and done is better than perfect. I did quilt it. I did a lot of free motion quilting, which is very difficult for you to see, I know, in here. Just, you know, little loopy lines. And I did do a little bit of walking foot quilting in the outer borders as well. So, and here's the backing. It's a purple. And I have to say, I'm very proud of the fact there aren't any tucks in this. And again, I did a combination of spray and pin basting, and that's working for me very, very well. So it is done. Move on to the next project. And the next project is the Jaded, what's called Jaded X's quilt. Now, I don't have it hanging up here, but I did finish it on the weekend as well. And I'm going to insert a little video so you can see it, because I can't get two of them strung across here. That one is an old quilt, meaning that it was a UFO, an unfinished object. It's been hanging up in my sewing area along with a bunch of other UFOs, and I figured, well, I had my area set up to quilt this one, so when I finished this one, I was inspired to layer the next quilt and quilt it, and it turned out okay too. Now, it was an earlier quilt that I made, and it was made out of scraps. It did follow a pattern of sorts. But anyways, I'm not going to talk, rented lips. I'm not going to talk anymore about it. I'm just going to show it to you. So this quilt I finally finished. It's been hanging around for over a year, maybe even longer than that. It's a UFO, which stands for Unfinished Objects. It never got around, well, I never got around to quilting it, but I finally did. I got the ambition, and so I have it all quilted now. Now, I think this was a free pattern from Jordan Fabrics. It's called Jagged X, but I just used scraps to make it, so it's got this scrappy look to it. In fact, I'm not even sure if the border was part of that particular pattern or not. And I, looking at this, and I did miter the borders as well. They turned out not too bad, but not the best. But anyways, better done than perfect, I guess. And I did quilt it. I just did, for the sake of time, I used my walking foot and did some straight line and wavy line quilting on this. But I think it turned out pretty good, given, you know, that's been hanging around here for well over a year. So, you know, what they say, done is better than perfect. And I had a few leftover blocks, what we call orphan blocks, from that quilt. I don't know why, I had 8 left over for some reason. So I made them into a quick table runner. And there it is right there. And this will probably go into storage as a potential gift for someone down the road because, you know, I got a lot of table runners. How many table runners does one person need? But anyways, I didn't want to waste those blocks. So that's what you can do with your orphan blocks. Okay. So another artist's creative talent being revealed here in these artist trading cards, ATCs. These are from Pat. Pat's one of the ladies in my art journaling group that we meet with. I don't know what's going on this morning. I'm having these mental blocks. Am I going nuts? No. These are ATCs. They're by Pat. Pat is one of the ladies in my art journaling group. And these are 6 months worth, and they're very nice. Very, very creative. And I love them. And they're going into a special spot as well with all of the ATCs that my ladies make and give me copies of. And so, yeah, very, very nice. Okay, so that takes us to the YouTube channel of the week. This is a sort of a DIY on the cheap type of channel. This lady has lots of ideas for things you can do for home decor and repairs and things like that, buying most of the stuff from the dollar stores. So check out this. This week's YouTube channel of the week is called Liz Fenwick DIY. And this is a woman who goes and buys a lot of things at Dollar Tree, at IKEA, and other stores, and shows you what you can do with them when you're on a budget. She talks about storage ideas. She talks about home hacks for home decor. She has a whole lot of other things. I do find her more like an info commercial in her style because her videos are very professionally made. I do question how many more of these YouTube channels we really need, but there may be people out there who are looking for something very specific for their home that will solve a problem they might be having in terms of storage or home decor. And so something like this, I think, is very good. She's very imaginative, she's very creative, she's very well organized. So if you want to see what you can create from basically stuff that you paid only $1 for at the Dollar Tree, then check out Liz Fenwick DIY. So that YouTube channel is linked below. You will also find a link for Stephen and Walter Live. We got kind of serious this week. Yesterday would have been the Toronto Pride Parade. It's always the last Sunday of June. Of course, this year, as of last year, that parade had been canceled because of COVID, but they did do a virtual presentation as well. Now, I don't know. I didn't really get into it. I watched a little bit of it. They had it on YouTube. It was, it looked like a lot of people who were performing, singers, things like that. I'm sure it was very entertaining for some people. I'm not the kind of person that is interested in that. But at least they're trying to keep it alive, and hopefully next year they can go back to what it used to be. The Toronto Pride Parade is extremely well attended, well over 1 million people in attendance of it. It's a big party. It's a lot of fun, although if you're like me and you're claustrophobic, it's not so much fun because the crowds are thick. But anyways, that was yesterday. So we also decided, though, to talk a little bit about the AIDS epidemic. Yes, do we need to hear about another epidemic? We're already going through one. I think it was important to discuss it because the AIDS situation, when it got out there in the early 80s, it had started before then, but it was really in the early 80s when the world started to hear more about it. It really shaped the destiny of the LGBTQ community, and we talk about that. And we also talk about it from a personal basis because in the gay world, I don't think there's anybody that's in my age bracket or older, they were touched in one form or another, maybe more severe than others. We were fortunate for us, but nevertheless, we lost friends to the AIDS epidemic, as many, many, many people did. And it really is the reason why today LGBTQ rights are where they are. So if you want to know more about that, then tune in to Stephen and Walter Live, because we discuss it quite extensively. Okay, and you will find a link to the latest Idiot Quilter, episode 120. You'll find a link to the Idiot Quilter Presents. So there's another interview, very interesting interview. And there is a link to So Chatty, where we went over some terminology. Every art form has its short forms and nicknames and things like that for different things, but it can get very confusing if you're new to a particular art form. So we try to demystify some of the more common terms. You'll also find a link for Craft and Chat and Stephen's Creative Birthday Bash. You'll find the actual Zoom links because I have put those in now. Craft and Chat occurs on July the 7th, and that's where we get together during the day for about 3 hours from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and just work on whatever we're working on and just have conversation. There's no drama. All are welcome. It's sort of a drop-in session. Stay for the whole thing. Come early, leave late, leave halfway through, come halfway through. All up to you. It's very, very flexible. So the Zoom link for that is below. Now, I will have this posted again next week in all of my videos as well, because it doesn't happen this week, it happens next week. And then right on the heels of that, on July the 10th, we have Stephen's Creative Birthday Bash, which, as you know, is an all-day sort of retreat, creative retreat. It's very informal as well, very much on the lines of Craft and Chat, but it's 8 hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All are welcome. And it's just an opportunity for you to, go to your happy place and do some creating, whatever, makes you happy, feel joy. So I hope you'll be able to join us. I am in the planning stages of this. I'm thinking of a few things that I might like to do that might make it just a little bit different from just a drop-in kind of a thing. But overall, it's just meant to be very relaxing, and it's my way of celebrating my birthday, which actually is 4 days after that. My birthday is actually July the 14th. But, given the situation of COVID, I'm not having a party or anything like that. This will be about as close as I'm getting to a party. Okay, so that's all in the show notes for you. So that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Now, I've got to be careful with this topic. You saw the title, Yikes, Dykes. I'm just going to say it. I don't like Dykes. Yeah, that's a little harsh. Okay. Well, what I mean is, I think people think that lesbians and gay men and bisexual people and transgendered and everybody in between all of that, because we're all under the umbrella of the LGBTQ community, that we all get along. We don't. And one of the problems is we're kind of our own worst enemies. It's like each of us, each subgroup within this larger umbrella of the, and I'm just going to, for the sake of not having to say LGBTQ, 2AI, whatever, all the initials on, I'm just going to call it gay, okay? But that's what I mean. When I say gay right now, I mean everybody in the LGBTQ grouping. We're not the same. Gay men are different from lesbians. Well, there's one obvious reason. We're men, they're women, okay? But you would think we're all on the same front here. We are not. Each of the little subgroups within the gay community have their own mission, their own philosophy, their own style, for lack of a better word, because I hate that word style. So, we're all working for things that will benefit our particular subsection. Well, here's an example of what I mean. Okay, I just told you about the Gay Pride Parade, that it was virtual this year. Well, yeah, and everybody that marches in the Pride Parade understood that and why. And there are subgroups in the Pride Parade. It's not just gay men. There's all kinds of other groups. There's ones that are supporters or allies, the whole bit. And usually in Toronto Pride, they call them Dykes on bikes. They start off the parade. And it's all these lesbians with motorcycles. It's something to see, okay? They traditionally have always started the parade. Well, this year, they also have their own Pride Parade, usually the day before the main Pride Parade. Now, that's always been a sore spot in the gay community. Why are they having their own thing? But that's what lesbians are like, okay? They're a subgroup, so they're doing what they think they need to do to get their whatever. I don't want to say message. It's not a message, but to do what they need to do to stand out from the rest of the ones under the umbrella. Well, this year they decided to have their own parade again. This was not virtual. This was a physical one. Okay, there are so many things wrong about that right now during COVID. I think it was a stupid move. We are not fully vaccinated, blah, 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 right? But they have to stand out. They have to be special. So that's what I'm saying, that there is disparity amongst all the subgroups in the gay community. And this is a prime example of it. I don't know why they felt they needed to do this, because they're the only group that did. But there you are. And I'm thinking about how this in a wider context possibly represents the disparity in the gay community as well. I mean, as gay men, we fought for same-sex marriage. We fought for many of the rights we now have, and that also includes lesbians because they did as well. Now we have transgendered, who rightly so are fighting for their rights too. And then there's other subgroups in there as well. Two-spirited people. The two-spirited people want to also have their Indigenous rights and things recognized underneath our group. And I don't have a problem with that either. But what I'm saying is we don't come together like we should. Each of these groups under the umbrella of the LGBTQ community, we should all be coming together. Because you would think we all have similar agendas. Apparently, we don't. So, here we are fighting for equal rights with the rest of the outside world. But we can't get our own act together. We can't seem to agree. Or one group thinks that they're being slighted or another group is getting more attention. So there is competition in this whole group thing. And when you have that kind of thing, that's going to lead to differences and it's going to lead to problems. In some ways, it's kind of amazing that all of these groups do come together at least once a year for Pride. It does bring people together. But that's an amazing thing, given the different agendas that are there. So I think it was inappropriate for what the lesbians did in the Toronto Pride Parade. I think it was very inappropriate on a couple of levels. I think it was inappropriate because right now we're going through this COVID thing and, they're just basically throwing all the guidelines and the health regulations in the face of everybody else and saying to hell with you. And they're also coming up against the greater LGBT community by standing out, by trying to make their agenda seem to be the one that's most important. So, I don't want a lot of hate mail from lesbians about this. I started this by saying I don't like them. I don't. I'm sorry. I don't. I'm being very, very honest. I have tried. Walter and I have both tried to be friends with lesbians. And many gay men are. But for some reason, the ones that we have met, well, we've had bad experiences. Let's put it that way. Okay? I'm sure I'm probably, painting all lesbians with the same paintbrush here. And I don't mean to. But I've had repeated bad experiences, so I am tainted. But forgetting my personal beliefs about this and looking at the wider community, I really think it was inappropriate, to say the least, with what they did. Will they be penalized for it? No. Do they get away with it? Yes. Okay. As long as that keeps happening in the LGBT community, we are our own worst enemies. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about what I have, or new things that I have bought. Well, they are sewing supplies, I'm sorry to say, for those of you not into sewing, but they're gizmos too. Kind of this melts my world, or puts my two worlds of 3D printing and quilting together. How about this? What is this you're probably trying to figure out? Well, it is 3D printed. I didn't 3D print it. The company that makes this, I think it's called Purple Hobbies, they made it. And what it is when you open that up, this is a magnet in here, a very powerful magnet. So you drop your box of pins all over your floor or whatever, you just take this little thing and you wipe it around and it picks up all your pins. And then when you go over to your container for your pins, you just push this lever, bingo, they all drop off the bottom. A simple little device designed by someone with a 3D printer, but very, very effective. So yeah, very handy tool. The other thing I bought, also 3D printed, same company, is this. And this is called the third hand binding folder clip. I'll just take it out of the bag here because there is a glare. It's a very simple little gizmo. Now, for those of you who are quilters, you'll know what I mean by binding. Binding is this little edge that goes around the outside of your quilt, and what it is it's enclosing your unfinished or your raw edges, so things don't go unraveling when you wash it or use it. But you have to make these strips that go all the way around. They're not hard to make, but you have to fold them over and press them and pull a little bit more, fold it over, press it. It gets a little tedious. This little gizmo is meant to take the tediousness out of that job. What it does is it clamps. There's a little butterfly nut here on the end. Opens this up. It clamps to the end of your ironing board. And in here, there's little grooves. You put in your piece of fabric, your 2.5 or 2.25 inch piece of fabric that you need to fold over in half. You just put that in here. You may have to pull it through with a needle here. Pull it through, and as you pull it through, it folds it in half. So you just put your iron down on top of it, pull a little through, and just keep pulling it. You make that binding in seconds with this, and it works very, very well. I used it the other day for the Jagged X quilt. So I'm really pleased with this little thing. But you know, whoever designed this is a genius. It's 3D printed. I did kind of look to see if I could print my own, but I can't find it anywhere. They're making good money on this because they're charging, the company I bought it from are charging $19.99 for it. I can tell you there is not $19 worth of material in this. Okay, but that's okay. That's how business works, right? But yeah, great little tool. And tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, I may actually demonstrate how it really works. If you're interested, then tune into that. So those are a couple of things that I bought. I also bought, now, this is a teaser. We went shopping yesterday. One of the quilt shops we like to go to every now and then, a little ways away from us, not far, was having a tent sale. And we decided to go. Now, I was only looking for a couple of things. Yeah. This bag is full. Give you a little peek. And that's all I'm showing you. Because tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter, I'm going to do an unbagging and show you all the stuff I bought. Did I buy a lot? Yes, I did. Like a lot at the tune of over $500. And that was with the sale prices. Now I have a problem. Where am I going to store it? So today I'm going to have to look at doing some reorganization in my sewing room. Now, Walter didn't get off lightly. He didn't really have anything he specifically wanted, but he bought two, and he walked out of there $200 plus of fabric. Some great fabrics, though, for making shirts. He found one fabric that's all wine corks. It looks really cool. And I thought, that would make a really fun shirt. So yeah, so we did some retail therapy yesterday as well. Now this little store, just so you know, it's so tiny, and right now we have a regulation on how many people can be in a retail setting, and they were following that. In fact, they made us wear gloves as well. We had our masks on, but we couldn't touch anything unless we had the gloves on, which I think might be going a little overboard. But then again, it's better than not doing anything at all. So yeah, it was fun. Inexpensive. But I do have a little fund that I set money aside every month towards this habit, because I know I'm going to spend it. Okay, so like I said, tomorrow I will reveal all that's in that bag. So tune into the Idiot Quilter when it comes out if you want to see what's in there. All right, that takes us to the 3D corner. I made a lot of things in the past week. I made this. Okay, originally I left at its original size. It's basically a flower pot. It's some kind of, it comes from one of those fantasy games or something, I guess. I couldn't tell you what it is. It's a stump with a door in it, but it's a flower pot. But I thought it might make a really neat pin cushion, but I think it's a little too big. So it will be a flower pot at some point. I did this just to see how it would turn out, and it turned out pretty good. It's a bust of the Mandalorian. Now, I'm not into the Mandalorian stuff at all, but there's a lot of these online. But I wanted to print this because, and I printed it in the rainbow, although it's more like yellow and green, because it said it didn't need any supports. Supports are little pieces that you break off afterwards, but when it's printing these, if there's a lot of overhang in space, it helps support it, and they're a bitch. They're a bitch to remove, and half the time I find they don't even work. But this one said it didn't need any supports, so it was more of a test of what my printer could do. And yeah, it didn't need any supports, and it came out pretty good. I did make a couple of more pin cushions. These geometric bunny. This is the small version. I made a slightly larger version. They could also be used as flower pots if I made this one bigger, but I thought they were kind of neat. And I made them with what they call bronze, but I call it olive colored filament. But they got a nice shine on them. They're kind of cute. And the piece of the week. Now, everybody has probably been watching The Handmaid's Tale, right? It's one of the most popular series on TV right now. It just finished its 3rd season. Many of us have read the book. I used to teach the book to my seniors in high school as well, because after all, it is now considered a Canadian classic from our foremost writer in Canada, Margaret Atwood. And so, of course, it meant that people would probably be making 3D printable models of the main character. A little piece of glue back there. So there she is. Yeah, I don't know if you can see her. Just put the shade on her a little bit. Notice the hand, the finger. This was made in 3 pieces. The body, the head, and the bonnet or hat or whatever she wears. But I think it was just hilarious. And I am a fan of The Handmaid's Tale, both the book and the series. So I had to make it. It's just fun. Okay, so that's all that's been going on with the 3D printer. Well, I made one other thing, but I didn't bother to bring it out to show you because it's a ruler rack. Another ruler rack for my quilting stuff. And it's got rulers in it right now, so I just left it sitting in the other room. I might actually show it tomorrow on the Idiot Quilter. Okay, that takes us to another project. Now, again, this is a blast from the past because I haven't done anything yet that's suitable to show you here, although I am thinking of something, and I've ordered some stuff online for it. I'm thinking of trying my hand at fabric painting. I watched a video on the Quilt Show, actually, where it looks really like fun, and you end up with a really interesting product. But I need a broadcloth for this. So I went online, I ordered 6 meters of broadcloth. I'll probably get it sometime this week. And what I'm thinking is, this will be an experiment for me. So I may video myself working with this. So you'll see my mistakes, you'll see what works, what doesn't work, and everything. And that may be coming up in a couple of weeks on here for this segment. However, for now, I'm going back into my back catalog, and there was a set of stamps called Art Foamies, and they're a Canadian product that I got really into back, quite a few years ago now. They're still a popular product, they're still out there, and so I decided to use the Art Foamies to make some background papers that could be used in art journals. So I'm showing you the first part of this video. So this is more of a technique than a finished product kind of thing. So here's the first part.
And today I thought I would play with my Art Foamies. I got these a week or so ago, and I've seen them advertised on CHA videos on YouTube, CHA 2016, and I thought they looked really interesting for doing mixed media. And so I started working with them this morning, and I stopped because I wanted to start the video up because I am having the best time with these, and I'm just loving these. So I thought, rather than go through the whole process of what I'm doing and then come back and make a video about it, I'll make the video as I'm doing this. So this is a little play video here today. Now, what are Art Foamies? Art Foamies are basically foam stamps. It's a very dense rubber foam. And it's a company that is Canadian, which is a plus right there since I am Canadian. They're out in BC, I believe. And you can go to their website and order these from them if you can't find them in your local store. And the website on here is www.artfoamies, ARTFOAMIES.com. And they have videos on there showing you how to use them, but you can also do a search on YouTube for videos. Now that's what I've done. Before I even opened up the packages of these, I went to several different videos on YouTube and saw how they were using them, and that's what I'm going to be doing today and maybe a little bit more. Now, Julie Faye Fan Balzer, you've probably heard that name. She's big in the art community. She makes her own stencils and things. She has designed some of these stamps for Art Foamies, for the company, and they've got a little sticker on them so you know that they're her designs. She's into mixed media, she's into art journaling and all kinds of things, and she uses these especially with art journaling, and that's why I bought them, for art journaling. But I am finding they're so much more than just that. Now, before I explain to you what these are and how to use them, I'm just going to show you some prints that I made this morning on deli paper. So there's one. There's another, and then this is a little different design here. And these are all done stamped in acrylic paint. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. Now I'm going to build on these because my intent is, after I've made several of these and they're dry and I'm finished with them, I'm going to save them for future art journaling projects. I might rip them up, I might take pieces out, I don't know. So we're going to see what happens. So I'll just put those over to one side, and I will be stopping and starting this video at different points because we don't want to watch wet paint dry and all that kind of thing. But right now I'm just going to show you what I've already bought. I bought quite a few. I was up at Karen Ellis's The Art House Studio a couple of weeks ago, and she had those in stock, and so I bought pretty much everything she had. So I have this very large one of a sort of a leafy floral kind of pattern. That's a Balzer design one. This one of a feather, I thought that would be very good. This huge one, which is really intended to go on material, these will work on fabric if you use fabric paints. On paper they'll work, whatever, it just depends on the paint or the ink that you're using. And it's a Balzer design as well. I got a bird as well, I thought that would be great in art journal pages. And I got these two designs, this one for backgrounds, and this sort of floral one. And these are the two that I just showed you that I used on the deli paper. Off to the side here, you're going to see I have some paints laid out. They're just cheap acrylic paints. I've got a scraper, and I'll show you what I use that for in a moment, and I've got a piece of palette paper, which actually I'm using for stamping off, because I think when I'm done with this, I'm going to hang on to this as well. It could become something too. Even during this process, I'm also hanging on to my baby wipes that I use for wiping these off, because I let these dry. I know other people do this. I've never really done it. They keep the old paper towels or the baby wipes that are stained with color, and they do things with them. So I'm just got them off the side drying, and yeah, waste not, want not, I guess. Okay, let me clean these off for just a second. I'm going to leave the bird, because I'm going to work with him next. And I'm going to show you what I did. Now, this is how Julie Fay Pham, boy, that's a mouthful for a name, Julie Fay Pham Balzer, how she uses them. She gets, when you get them, you get the rubber stamp and you get something called a stamp buddy. The stamp buddy is actually the pad that you're going to place your paint on first. Rather than taking this and dipping it directly into the paint, because it's a foam, a very dense foam, you could probably get too much paint on it. You don't need a lot. So this helps you distribute the paint. Now what she does, and you can see here I did it, she took a StazOn ink pad, inked up her foam stamp before she even used it, and stamped an impression on to this. The reason being is this now becomes a guide to where she puts her paint, because you put your paint onto these directly. I did the same with this one. Now, these are stained, but there's nothing on them. They're coming up clean. Reason being they're stained is from the acrylic paint. But after you're done, and this is a very important step, you need to take the paint off your off your foam stamp. Now, you can run it under a tap, but do not leave it. It says in the instructions soaking in water. Julie Fay Pham Balzer, I will get that name right eventually, she just uses a baby wipe and cleans it all out. And I found that that's probably the easiest way. With this, which is like a sponge, just run it under a tap and squeeze all the paint out of it, and then just dry it by pressing it through a couple of sheets of paper towels, and then let it air dry. Now, all of these stamp buddies are a different size. They all match the size of the stamp itself. Okay? They recommend that if you still have paint left on it, then you can put it in an airtight sealed bag, like a Ziploc bag or something like that, and pull it out next time to use it. I think that'd be a little messy. So what I'm going to do is I've just rinsed them off. I'm going to let them air dry, and then I think I'm going to store them all in one of those great big plastic boxes, and I'll label it Art Foamies. So I've used these two already, as you can see. So I'm just going to take those and set them aside. And I'm going to get this one out, and I'm going to show you the process here. Now they do come with instructions, and the instructions are very helpful because it shows you what's recommended and it gives you basic cleanup and how to use it. But I would recommend that you also check out videos on YouTube for how people are using these for ideas. So there's the stamp buddy and the foam stamp itself. And what I'm going to do first is I'm going to ink this up with StazOn ink. You're using StazOn because StazOn ink will not wash off. It's permanent, and that's what you want. This is just giving you a basic outline so you know where to lay down your paint. Now you can do these all in a solid color. I've been doing them in multiple colors, but I'll show you how this works. So I'm getting this fairly inky. Okay, that should be good. And then I'm just taking it and lining it up, and then you just press down. You don't have to press down too hard, but it should be even pressure all the way around it. If you don't get a perfect impression on the stamp buddy, that's okay. There we go. I got a pretty good impression there. Now, believe it or not, this is the first thing I discovered. I'm just going to move my palette paper over here. There's still a lot of StazOn on this. So I'm just stamping it off, but look at that. Look how much ink is still on this. Like, it really holds quite a bit. And this is the same with other inks as well. It's not just the stays-on that's doing this. Look, I'm still getting an awful lot on here. So, I was going to set that aside for a second. So I have this impression on here, and it's still a little wet, but that's okay. In fact, what you can do, at least I think you can probably do this, I'm making this up as I go along, people, okay? So you're going to see what happens as it happens to me. I'm just blotting this a little bit because I don't think it'll affect anything, but just in case. Yeah, that came off pretty good. Okay, throw that over on the side. Still got a fair amount on here. I'm just going to... Stays-on usually dries pretty fast, but on these it doesn't seem to be. But that's okay, because I did this on the other one and I didn't even blot it, and it didn't affect the paint at all. But I'm going to blot this one. Okay.
So next week, part 2. Okay, so events in the past week. Well, my mother, she's fine. Everything, she seems to have settled in very, very well to the new place. In fact, the other day, last week, when I gave her a call, FaceTime call, she wasn't in her room, which was good to see. She was in the lounge when they made the connection, and I got a little impromptu tour of that area, which looks very, very nice, very open, very airy, bright, cheerful looking, and my mother seemed to be in good spirits. So I think this move has been a good thing for her. She seems to be getting out there and being a little bit more social than I thought she was before, although they told me that she is fairly social, which I found surprising. So we're just waiting now. My sister, I think, was getting her shot this past Friday, her second shot. So then we have to wait 2 to 3 weeks for it all to kick in. And then we'll probably make a joint visit to my mother as an outdoor visit, because I think we can do that now. We have to book it and the whole bit. And we'll go and actually physically see my mother, which we have not been able to do in over a year. So that'll be kind of nice. So, but she's fine. She's doing well, I think. Okay, so we did something, though, a little bit different. We went for another walk. Now, we had these great plans that we would go for a nature trail walk, different conservation areas at least a couple of times a week. Yeah, that doesn't work out. It's more like once every 2 weeks that we end up doing it. But this time we went out and we actually walked on the trail system that runs through our city in Oshawa. It starts in the north end where I live and it runs all the way down to Lake Ontario. So that's quite a piece if you were to walk it from one end to the other. And there are side trails as well that sort of branch into it. And it's very nice. It's very well groomed. It's not like walking on a nature trail because there is a bike path. It's all paved, but you don't realize you're right in sort of the center of our city because of the trees and the way it's been, all set up. So it's a very nice little walk. So we parked the car at one part of the trail and walked it. Now, we're walking towards the lake and we thought we could walk all the way to the lake. And yeah, we probably could have, but not that day, because we're about 10 kilometers where we started from the lake. And yeah, sure, you get down there, but you got to get back again. So we thought that might be pressing things. So we walked about 6 kilometers round trip. 3 there, 3 back. Actually, it was a little bit more than 6 kilometers. But we also did something else. We went out for a late lunch, early dinner. Down at the lake, there is a place. It's called the Jube. It's been there for 1,000 years. It's been many things over the years. It's been a banquet hall, a dance hall, all these kind of things. But right now it has been redone as basically a pub and grill with a huge deck on the outside. And of course, right now, our government said that you can, under certain restrictions, go to a patio area and have a beer or, have some lunch, things like that. So we decided to drive down there after we'd finished our walk and go to this place. Now, I have to say I was a little apprehensive. Okay, it's that COVID anxiety kicking in, but we went through with it, and it was nice. And the food wasn't that great, and it was a bit of a sticker shock. We haven't been out for something like that in, a year and a half, and then you get the bill and you go, and then you add tip to it, and we didn't have that much. So, one thing COVID's made me is a little bit more thrifty, although you'd never know with what I spend on fabric, right? But nevertheless, it was kind of a nice setting. There's a big park down on the lakefront where this is situated, and it's called Lakeview Park because it's right on the edge of the lake. There is a bit of a beach. The beach here in Oshawa is not a great beach. But, there's Lake Ontario, and it was a nice day. It was a little cool down by the lake. There was a breeze, but it was nice. It was very civilized. But I did keep looking over my shoulder as people came by and that, don't get too close to me. I mean, they had the tables spread out. They only allowed a maximum of 4 people from the same household at a set of tables. So yes, we had a sign in when we went in, so there had to be contact information. We had to wear our masks until we sat down at the table. And then when we got up from the table, we had to put our masks back on. And, there was hand sanitizer and all that kind of stuff. So, this is probably the new norm for a while, so I guess we have to get used to it if we want to do that kind of thing. But anyways, I suppose the more times we do it, the more we'll get used to how this all works. But it was just nice for a change, even though I was having a bit of an anxiety attack. Okay, so I'm going to show you what that kind of looks like. I did do a little video of both our walk on the trail and our lunch.
So we're out for another walk, but this time instead of going to a conservation area, we're actually in downtown Oshawa. This is a path system that runs from the north end of the city right down to Lake Ontario. And so here you've got a well-worn path. It's also a bike path and little parks and things along the way too. The thing about this pathway is that it's maintained by the city of Oshawa. So you're really not in the bushes. You're running parallel to many of the streets downtown. Over through those trees there, you can see cars passing by. But you don't feel like you're in the downtown core because you have all this nature all over the place. Ooh, be very, very quiet. There's one of the Oshawa locals on the path. They bite. So of course, because this runs parallel to the streets and things, you can go underneath in these bridged off areas. The road is above us, but this allows you to cross over to the other side without having to worry about traffic or anything like that. And of course we have the modern art, which Oshawa is famous for. The murals, as we like to call them, they're really not murals. Well, I guess it could be worse. Another tunnel. This comes out onto something called Erie Street because it's an Erie tunnel. But I see light ahead. So there you go. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So they have these little cutout areas off the path as well that they keep the grass short and be a nice little spot. You could sit here, you could have a little picnic or whatever during the week. It's a nice green space in the middle of an urban center. So of course this goes over something called Oshawa Creek, which kind of twists and turns all over the place, and some of this you get some of these little bridges that go over top of the creek. And there's the creek down there.
Abandoned baby carriage in the middle of it.
Okay, and then some people come here to dump their children off into the river. Yeah, okay. It's Oshawa. So here's another shot of one of these bridges that we just went over a few minutes ago from a little different angle, which is kind of nice.
They make it very picturesque. Good spots to take pictures from. There you can see the creek down there.
Actually, stop here for a second.
What?
I need to tie up my shoes.
Oh, Walter's shoes are untied. And that's where we came from. And that's where we're going to. Another shot of the Oshawa Creek, which runs north of the city and all the way down to Lake Ontario. And it's kind of picturesque. Let's see what else we spot on the trail. Oh, Quilter. We've now turned ourselves around and we're going back to where we started from. We walked about, what was it,
3.3 kilometers.
3.3 kilometers one way, so it means we have to walk 3.3 kilometers the other way. New world record, yay! The longest we've walked in a while in one spot. Of course, you can hear me breathing because this part of it going back is sort of uphill, which is a bit of a drag. If we'd kept going the other way, we probably would have eventually come out to the lake. But from where we parked the car and where we started this trail, that was about 10 kilometers one way. I think we'd be pushing it. So I was just saying to Walter, if you look, there's no garbage around. They do have garbage bins at certain spots on here, but for the most part, we have not seen any garbage. So we were wondering, is it the city of Oshawa people keeping this clean? Or are people just really being considerate and taking their garbage out with them when they leave the trail? I'd like to think it is that, but I have a feeling it's more the city of Oshawa keeping things cleaned up. But it is very, very tidy. Okay, so although we're out in nature, there is this drop box. It's a needle drop box because, unfortunately, you know what? This area sort of attracts, but at least they're trying to keep the area safe. And so we're back where we started. So this is was a shopping mall sort of a thing. Now it's something else. But yeah, we drove up here and we go through, and that's probably illegal on the path, but you know, it's Oshawa. What can I say? So that was a walk in the woods in basically central Oshawa. It's kind of nice. Yeah, it's nice that we have that. So just as an afterthought, right there where all those trees and everything, that's where the path was, and that's what this was parallel to. This is one of the major roads in the city, and just over this little rise over here and behind these buildings that are coming up, that's where the path system all runs along. Just thought you might want to see that as a perspective of where we had been. So where we're headed is in the south end of the city, and it's where Lake Ontario is. Oshawa is built right on Lake Ontario. There is a beach area down here. We don't come down here very often because unless you're a beach person, and it's not really a really nice beach either, it's kind of rocky, it's not really white sand or anything like that. But there's a historical museum down here, which we've never been to. And there's something called the Jube. Now, the Jube was a infamous in its day dance hall, party place. And it's gone under many transformations over the years. It's been used as banquet halls and things like that. But supposedly they now have a deck and a restaurant. And they've brought new life to the Jubilee Pavilion. We call it the Jube. So we'll see what that's like. And this is also a shipping port of sort, cargo ships and things like that. So there you can see one of the big ships anchored right there. I don't know how important this port is to the economy. I don't think I've ever heard of it being really a huge kind of thing, so I don't know what kind of ships pull in here, but I can't see them now because it's out of shot. But this little drive down here takes you through, and it's all parked land.
Maybe I should have gone further down.
Yeah, I think you should have, because you're out on residential. So we're lost in our own city. So now you get another shot down here. This is all parked land, and it leads to the lake.
You want me to park there?
Well, I don't know.
Let's park here.
Ken, take a look. Okay, we'll take a little look around. It's very, very busy down here today. Well, it's because it's a warm day, so they're all out getting fresh air and water. So this is the park called Lakeview Park. You can see it's a fairly big size. A lot of people come down here during major holidays and things for picnics, bring their hibachis, barbecues, things like that. And right there in the distance, behind those trees, is Lake Ontario. And way across that body of water, about 35 miles or so, or 40 miles, is Rochester, New York, the American side of the lake. Okay, so this is a first in a long time. We're actually sitting on a patio and we're going to have dinner. Tables are set that they can only have 4 people of the same household at a table, and the tables are all spread way apart from each other and everything. We had to wear our masks when we came in. We had a sign in when we came in, and there was sanitizer there as well and everything. So we're still doing this all on the safe side, even though we have been double vaccinated. But you got to be safe about this. This is the first time in a long time that we've
Since last summer.
Yeah, since last summer. And that was up in that other place we went in Aurelia. So yeah, it's been a year. So it's kind of a nice location for this deck because you can see the lake right over there. That's kind of nice. So a little viewing. Okay, so nachos, wings, and beer. It's almost like normal times again. So one last thing that's new. While we were on that walking trail, I got a phone call. It was my hairdresser. This week, I think about Tuesday, Wednesday, they are allowing hairdressers to open back up. Of course, there's all kinds of restrictions on them as well as to how many people can be in the salon at one time and all that kind of thing. But nevertheless, they can get back to work, which means I can get my hair cut. So my hairdresser immediately called me to make arrangements. Now, we can't get our hair cut until July the 13th. So we've got 2 weeks yet. So in 2 weeks, this should be down to about here. Okay? She's doing us at 7 o'clock at night, but that's when she could fit us in. Now, the only thing is, I've been going to the same hairdresser for 30 years, and I think I talked about this on Stephen and Walter Live, and nothing against her. I love her. That's why I've been going to her for 30 years. She's great, and you know how hard it is to find a decent hairdresser, okay, and break them in. However, after the other lockdown we had months ago, same thing. She called, she told us when we were coming in, kind of a deal. And it's always at an odd time. And yeah, part of that is because her time is restricted as well by the regulations. But I know it's all the women that get in first. Why? Because those women are biting at the chomp. Because they need to have their hair cut, they need to have their hair colored, permed, done whatever to it. I just need a cut. It takes my hairdresser 10 minutes to cut my hair. For Walter, 5, because there's not a lot of hair there to cut in his case. So basically, she's fitting us in at the end of her day when she's probably tired, but she knows that it's a no-brainer for her. I do sort of resent that treatment, given that I've been a regular customer for 30 years. However, I get it. She has to appease these other ladies, and I mean, I don't want to come up against the ladies who are desperate for their hair color because they'll probably eat my face, kind of a thing. But anyways, I'm getting it cut, which is good because it is driving me nuts. Now I'm starting to think when she cuts it, and she cuts my hair pretty short, and that's okay. I want it that way. I'm going to look bald. Yeah, after this. So stay tuned, but it's not for another couple of weeks. Just the day before my birthday, I get a haircut. Yay! Happy birthday to me. Okay, so as I said before, I have in the show notes the Zoom link for Craft and Chat next week, July 7th, and for Stephen's Creative Birthday Bash on July 10th. Those are both in there, so you might want to take note of those. I hope you will. And I will repeat them in all the videos from here on in until the date of. Okay, so that's it. Nothing else to talk about today with you. Thanks for joining in. I hope I didn't offend anybody too much with what I said about lesbians. Well, okay, you put a nasty comment in, I'll just delete it anyways, so keep that in mind. But I hope you have a great week as well. I hope you're double vaxxed, and we're getting there. Okay, so see you next week. Bye-bye for now.